project for the winter, a new one, and this time I've got plans, and obviously you're not seeing them from this side, and there's a reason for that. This is a project that my brother-in-law did about 3 times. Got tired of building it, but my other sister wants one, and the plans aren't the greatest. I don't like the way he's done the joinery, and it's really poorly written. So to save embarrassment, I'm not going to show the plans, but I'm going to do my own take on it. I'm just going to use the plans as reference, and we're going to go from there. And if you follow along, you'll be able to build it too. This is going to be a potato bin. Well, to start this project, I got myself a sheet of maple plywood, maple veneered plywood, and I have the sheet cut in quarters just so I can transport it. So that's going to be the sides and probably the doors out of it too. But we're not just going to whack some plywood together and make a box. Of course, we're going to make it much more complicated than that. Naturally, what I want, it's at the bottom and at the back. So we got to do some digging. As you can tell, my rough lumber is none too flat. But that's alright, as long as sections of it, as long as we need, are flat. So we've got a bad section here we've got to cut out. And 13 1/4 for the depth of our box, so I'm going to cut this off with a good amount of extra. I'm going to cut it off about 15 degrees. Cut it off about 15 inches, maybe a bit more. So I'm hoping that'll make a top and a bottom rail on one side. So I need 2 of those. Now the height is 34 1/4, so I'm going to cut this off just a little bit more than 36. So with that all cut to length, you can already see how much flatter it is. Not too bad. I think we're flat enough to be stable on the table saw. But we do need an edge to go against the fence. The jointer should make fairly quick work of that. Start out with the number 5, I guess. Take a heavier cut. Well, I haven't exactly decided on the thickness of my strips that I want yet. Just over 1 3/4 here that I'll rough cut them to. And if I get 1.5 inches, that's kind of the dimension I want, but if I get bigger, I get bigger. So before I'd hit it on the table saw, I did have to make one face a little bit flatter. But now we can bring it down to thickness. And I guess we should start with our thickest board. And start bringing it down to about 3/4 inch. Oh, better put my hearing protection on. And I already got the grain oriented. I can't even begin to guess how many times I do this in a project. Many. Well, there's all our stock buildup for our sides, our side panel frames. And we're just going to let them sit for a while. Let them rest. Cool out. Some heater noise in the background. I've had these sitting here for a couple of weeks. Put some heavy weight on them. Keep them stabilized. Maybe we can get back to it now. I just want to clean them up just a touch. Make sure they're square. And just the edges. set up a stop block at our final width of 13 1/4. So I will just trim one end. Just enough to take the ugly out of it. And then we'll use the stop block and make sure they're all the same length. We'll do the same thing with the long parts at 34 1/4. So I found the halfway point on my board, and this is my show face. And I've set up my tenoning jig to hit that halfway point. This is actually not quite set up yet, but we're going to take our first cut that way. If we have to move it this way a little bit, that's fine. I'm a little bit shy of it. I've got the height of my blade set to the thickness of my board, and we're going to do some half lap joints. We'll see how this first cut goes. As you can see, I can take a little bit more. Now with the show face on the inside, we'll do the same thing with the long pieces. Just goes to show you that even an underpowered saw can cut through quite a bit of walnut. With the spacer block clamped to my fence and my miter gauge, I can finish up that cut and take the waste out. Conversely, you could have just started with a dado stack or a regular blade and just nibbled away at this cut. Or you could have cut it by hand. Your option. You can see how the stop block here stops the cutoff parts from getting pinched between the blade and the fence so they don't kick back. It's an important safety feature. And with that, we've got some nice half flap joints. Nice and smooth. We're perhaps a little bit deep with our cut there. Nothing critical. Well, seeing as we have the heat on in the shop anyways, fairly warm day out, might as well glue this up. I'll probably have to bring it inside to dry. And this is a point where we find out we don't have enough clamps. Well, there's one, and there's two, and I've used a, geez, that doesn't show up at all, a drafting square, because I can get it right in there between all the clamps, and it's just about perfect. And if a drafting square isn't square, well, I don't know. Nothing is. And they can be had really cheap. And we've got the most of the squeeze out taken off with a damp cloth. At least on the visible side anyways. Back side is not as important. So we're going to leave those for an hour or so. And the heat is running. It's warm enough in here. We'll leave them about an hour and a half, and then we'll bring them inside to finish curing overnight. We'll take them out of their clamps after about an hour. And that's the next step done. We've got frames for panels we're going to make for the sides of our potato box. And the original plans just called for a straight plywood side, but we're jazzing it up a little bit.